Hi everyone, and welcome to your Module 7 Monday Morning Breakfast Bite. Now, this week, as you can see, we are studying open source and social media marketing. And in saying that, we're also concluding intellectual property with regard to trade secrets. So you'll have a little information about that. And I'm going to quickly click into this week's Module 7 readings and videos so you can see what we have on tap. You've got social media don'ts, and a lot of this is common sense things that we shouldn't be doing. But also, very important, the Defend Trade Secrets Act. Now, that's a newer act because in the past, trade secret was governed only by state law. Now, the federal government came in finally, and they went ahead and they passed federal legislation that governs trade secrets as intellectual property, because trade secrets are such an important part of intellectual property, as we'll talk about in just a second. But the Defend Trade Secrets Act is the federal legislation that governs what happens in the event that someone is interfering with or infringing upon another's trade secret. And when doing so, generally that means that the person that's doing the infringing, just like in other intellectual property situations, is looking to gain a marketing edge in utilizing the other's intellectual property. We're also going to be introduced to open source. Open source is very important from the standpoint of not just intellectual property because it's open source, which means everybody can utilize it, but also from the standpoint of how does it affect contracting and contractual terms, because there are cases out there that discuss and in fact have to do with breach of contract rights when someone goes beyond the scope of what's permitted by that open source. So pay attention to those readings. Pay attention to the Open Source Initiative website, very important website that gives you a lot of great information. Because when we talk about open source licensing and software licensing, remember that licensing is simply another form of contracting. But what we do with the license is we actually license our intellectual property to another for a specific purpose, for a specific period of time. When we license on a private basis, we're doing so for a fee. For example, if you think about McDonald's and all of these other entities that are part of the licensing aspect of doing business, then they are paying a fee to utilize that intellectual property of McDonald's, of Burger King, of any entity that falls into that category. And in doing so, they're paying a price, obviously, for it. But that entity is also providing all of the administrative services that are needed, the marketing services that are needed, and things of that nature. So everything's a quid pro quo. Social media marketing has become, or social media in general, has become such a part of our lives, good and bad. And it's very hard because I think that we provide too much from a personal standpoint of ourselves to the public at large. But from a business standpoint, social media is a mecca for marketing and really an inexpensive way to market your goods, your services, your wares, whatever it is that you have to offer. So you utilize social media marketing, but in doing so, remember there are certain don'ts. There are certain things that you cannot do on social media, even from a business standpoint, or should not do, I should say. So with that said, let's go ahead and go back into our general Module 7. Take a look also at this week's PowerPoint, of course. And all you have to do this week is the Module 7 discussion. So go ahead, get the Module 7 discussion done. Remember that your initial posting is due by Thursday, and your response posting is due by Sunday. Now, you're going to be looking at the Jacobson versus Katzer case, which should come up when you click on this link. Now, understand that that's a case that's going to talk about that open source and open source licensing. So pay attention to it. It's a little bit long, but it's a great case that introduces you to the issues that can arise when we're talking about open source programming, open source software issues, but really this is more of a programming case, contracts, copyright. When can you claim your copyright is breached or the contract is breached? And the Jacobson versus Cancer case talks about that. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact your instructor. That's what we're here for, and I hope other than that, you all have a great